Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you one more time for joining me on yet another one of my videos. And with no further ado, let's get right into it. Alrighty, number one, upon arriving on launch, greet others by name if you know it. Of course, this makes for a warm, friendly energy and wonderful atmosphere. Bystanders will immediately take notice that this is a respectful community of like-minded people. Yes, a very wonderful group of pilots. Now, it's best not to invite yourself into a conversation and be respectful by listening for a while first, unless, of course, someone invites you into the conversation. Now, while I was making these slides, I took a quick look over at Paragliding Earth, and I realized we now have over 3,000 sites around the world. So, this is going to be different for each country. Now, even though there are many different levels of pilots on launch, it is best to invite all levels of pilots into the conversation and not just stick to speaking to only the best XC pilots. And oh yes, by the way, that new P2 pilot could very well end up being your doctor, your chiropractor, or even your surgeon. Alright, next slide. Be sure to place your gear down well out of the way of others setting up or launching. Yes, and be sure to take the time to view what the thermal cycles are doing, as it may be growing stronger if it's a high lapse rate day. And of course, if you pull out a wind meter, there is a good chance that others will be interested in what's going on, because now the dynamic wind is mixing with the thermal strength as well. Now, number two, getting ready to set up. Never be the first one to launch in your first couple of years. Let one or two pilots launch first to see what the conditions are like out front. Our wind technicians at a site are generally experienced pilots and will let you know on radio how the conditions are after a couple of minutes of flying. Obviously, if they are sinking out, the lift is not very good, as of yet. And if they are going up fast, well, you should expect it to be punchy with possible sharp edge thermals. Now, if the windsock is slack and the trees around are not moving, that is also generally an indication that it is not on as of yet. It's good etiquette to share this. Questions. Is the wind a bit cross? Is there any rotor concerns? Having good etiquette means being honest about what you will fly in and what the new P2 pilot would fly in. If you are an experienced pilot, be conscientious and have a little supportive chat with the brand new P2 pilot before launching to see if they are indeed ready to fly. Do not give absolute factual advice, just give the general information and let them decide when they want to launch. Very important. Also, when a new pilot has asked for advice, it's best for one person to talk, as conflicting advice may result from more than one pilot giving input. When flying, if you are the wind technician, be respectful of the new pilots when giving your report on the radio to those on launch. Overall, don't say, it's fine, when it's not. It could be too punchy for the new P2. Other experienced pilots on launch will also be able to comment on the conditions based on what they are seeing from the first one out. Number three, deciding to set up. Okay, so you've talked with others about where it's good to set up, check lines, and clip in. If it's just you and your buddy, you have a flight plan. You always have one, right? Now is the time to get your gear set up, open your wing off to the side and out of the way of others setting up and or launching. Of course, a little etiquette goes a long ways here. Be sure that if there are bystanders or dogs in the area, that you politely let them know to please be respectful of your wing and your lines, as sometimes bystanders have no idea it's extremely bad to walk on your lines. Alright, so the wind direction and strength are good, the cycles are coming straight in and are comfortable for your level of experience. Remember the 10 and 10 rule, very important. You are comfortable with launching at this time of day based on the peak lapse rate calculated. You have watched a few pilots go off and have viewed their flight path for a moment or two. You feel good and are ready to fly. You and your buddy know the plan. It's always good to go over the plan before launch to make sure that all is well, given the possible new wind strength and direction as the day is now progressing. Alright, so at some sites there are lots of spectators and walk-by traffic. If clipping in, you should politely, with etiquette of course, let them know that you will not be able to chat now that you are into the clip-in process. Most people that don't know about the sport are pretty excited to ask you questions. So remember to do your pre-flight check undisturbed, and of course be sure to include a radio check with your flying buddy. Alright, moving right along. Number 4, the last minute prep before joining the queue, if there is a queue, of course. Alright, the last thing you want is getting out there in the sky and realizing that you have to land to go to the bathroom after a couple of minutes. Always allow some time to take a quick bathroom break just before launching. Really good etiquette for yourself. Have someone that is trustworthy, of course, to watch your gear if in a busy place, or you may wish to prearrange a wearable device. More on that later. Also, another point I want to make here real quickly is, I haven't put it on the slide, but dogs like to mark your wing. So the guy who's watching your wing, or girl, have him watch for this. Lastly, it's also good to have some good quality food before launching. It helps with your blood sugar level and slows the onset of motion sickness. Alrighty guys, I've been talking for a while. I'm going to grab a drink. Go ahead and read this slide. Alrighty, I'm back. Okay, so number 5, joining the queue and launch setup. After you have done your 10-point check, you are ready to join the lineup or the queue. Be mindful to not have too much conversation here, as you are watching others get into that launch position, spread their wing out, take their brakes off correctly, and build a wall and launch. Alright, it's good etiquette to help others, but be careful of your own gear. You may be called upon to pull out a folded over wingtip with your wing on your shoulder. Be careful not to step on their wing or your own lines after the move is made. Yeah, and keep in mind, if it's a busy day, there are generally a couple pilots helping out. If a non-pilot helps, be polite but firm to please not step on your wing while helping. It's inevitable that they generally will step on it by accident. And yes, it's always best to choose a pilot to help if available. Alright, number 6, the launch order. In the lineup, you generally have PG pilots, HG or hang gliding pilots, PG tandems, and HG tandems. Tandems always take priority in most every country. Good to hang on to that. There's generally a PG lineup, but be mindful that if a hang glider is ready, he or she will let others know that they are ready, and a friend will usually assist to call a place in the lineup. So watch for this when you are on launch with them, and be mindfully supportive. A little camaraderie goes a long ways. It's good etiquette to alternate one hang glider with one paraglider until they are off, or when ready. There are generally a lot more paragliders than hang gliders, so keep an eye out for when they are ready. When it comes to schools launching students, they will generally alternate a signed-off pilot with a student, so that the launch can stay flowing, as you do not want to stop the launch flow, especially on a busy day, being the weekend, of course. The instructor can be radioing a student while 2 or 3 licensed PGs go off. This is good etiquette. So be ready to have the instructor insert their students into the lineup, as you remember being one and were paying a fair bit of money to be there. That student could very easily become your flying buddy in little time. The more paragliding is becoming popular, the more our launches will become congested. It can get a little tense at times if someone is not following the protocol. Be okay with helping the line out by saying, "I think he's next," or "she's next." If you see a free beer show up for you at the pub after the day, you will know why. Number 7, helping those get ready to launch. This is a time where you need to ask if they need help with their wing. Don't just grab it, as some pilots like to do everything themselves and assure that they are 100% good to go on their own. And, of course, if they were on their own. It's good practice to do it all yourself. Also, do not assume that their radio is on. It is good etiquette to do a quick radio check with them, promoting safety and showing that you care about their ability to communicate in case of an emergency. If they don't have a radio working, ask if their phone is charged and in a side pocket zipped up. We are not responsible for making sure that pilots have 2 forms of communication devices. It's just good etiquette to ask. If they're doing a forward launch, it's good etiquette to let them know that you will be watching their lines for knots, sticks, and tangles. The command is good or stop. Having a long drawn-out sentence will only confuse the pilot. Make sure you have a chat about this before the launch. Number 8, when launching. This is the time to take a breath and do not rush. Keep moving it along. If you are a new pilot and there are lots of pilots on launch, rest assured that everyone is there in support of your safety. If you have made 3 attempts to launch and it is not going well for you at this moment, it is best to ball up your wing, let someone else go, and take some time to have a drink or a bite to eat, as your ground handling launching skills may need improvement, or You may have a low blood sugar level due to the anxiety leading up to the launch and not be focused, or you may be dealing with challenging thermal cycles coming up the front of that launch. And it's good etiquette to know when it's time to step aside and let another pilot go, or launch with confidence and have a great flight. Normally, other pilots will give you room on the side as well as downwind behind your wing for extra room to correct your wing if it does not come up straight and you need to run back a little. But you may need to ask them for that little extra room if pilots or bystanders are in that area. Now, I apologize for getting a little carried away here because this video is called Launch Etiquette, but you know what? I feel the desire to continue on. So we're going to talk about etiquette when flying. Number 9. It's good etiquette to not be using the radio more than what is needed for safety information and or landing plans. Pilots are concentrating on getting into the core of their thermal while flying. Generally, it's sometimes even painful to listen to unnecessary chat when flying for many hours. Turning the radio off is not a good option, as some important information may be coming in on that radio over the time of the flight. Now looking at some coastal information, it's important not to be buzzing launch, as other pilots are getting ready to launch. Wake turbulence is more pronounced on a coastal site, as the incoming breeze brings the turbulence to the hill and into the launching pilot's wing. The launching pilot's wing is then unstable just as he or she is leaving the hill. It's good etiquette to have a watchful eye for the reverse launching pilot at a ridge site. It's good etiquette to visually let the oncoming pilot on a ridge know what your plans are by giving him or her lots of room to fly safely away from your glide path. Also, it's good etiquette to review and go over the ridge rules with a local instructor before flying a ridge/ocean site if you have never done this previously. Alright, so it's good etiquette to exercise vertical separation when it is becoming time to land and you see another pilot at your approximate altitude by staying on the ridge a little longer so that he or she confirms a safe distance to ensure vertical separation. You want that person to be lower than you by about 200 feet so you have lots of room between you two and you both have very safe area in which to land. If you are the lower of the two, you can pull big ears to separate you two so that you are not fighting for a clean area to fly in on your base leg upon setting up for your final leg. In this case, it's good etiquette to give the right of way rather than take it. Alright, number 10, when packing, playing music. This is a bit of an issue in some places. Be mindful that not everyone is into the same music. Some love rap, while others love jazz. It's almost impossible to predict what everyone will enjoy. Some just like it quiet and want to take in their own thoughts. Alright, never assume that the packing area is any area of the LZ. Always check with the locals at a new site to ensure that you are packing in the correct designated area. This will help avoid the discomfort by an overly loud mention, as well as lessen the percentage of chance that another newer pilot may be accidentally landing on your wing. It's best to talk to your guide about the location when you walk the LZ for the first time when visiting a new site. Alright, so there's no smoking near or upwind of any wing. We all know that, but we have to spread this education to others. Watch for bystanders smoking and politely mention as to where they should stand. Also, be sure to suggest kindly, as a little etiquette will avoid a possible cigarette butt ending up in your wing. Super important at some of these sites. Alright, a bit of a sensitive one, but best to be mentioned. Pilot to pilot. Unsolicited advice is not always welcome, even if you feel that they need the information. Be sure to ask first to see if they want the advice. Maybe make a little time to connect later on. No one likes a Mr. Know-It-All, especially if they are here for maximum bliss, which most PG and HG pilots are. Now, I've already mentioned it, but it's important we put this on the end as well. Just before launching, suggest a radio check to your buddy, as it shows that you are concerned of the other pilot's safety. Alright, another important one. It's best to pay the going rate of what it costs to get up to the launch before taking the ride, rather than underpaying up top and saying, I'll pay the rest later, or in some cases not paying any more later. And this next one here Yes, some people are more sensitive than others, but this should be mentioned. Never assume that what you feel is acceptable will be acceptable by others, regarding foul language, one-upping, or talking really loud. Well, guys, I certainly hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, please like, subscribe, and by all means share with other paragliding pilots if you think they're going to get some value out of this. Absolutely. Regarding safety, of course, if you see someone clipped in incorrectly, or a line over a wingtip is noticeable, or a speed bar line is through a leg strap, or a reserve pin is not correctly positioned, this is the time to approach the pilot and speak it softly, rather than announcing to the entire launch. That's not going to go over well with the pilot. A little respect goes a long ways. Bottom line, let's do our part to help keep a little etiquette on launch, in the sky, and in the LZ at every site around the world. After all, we are one big family.